Welcome to episode 5 of Truth Is. This is a special edition I wanted to add on, and this is about our country. The shape it's in right now is absolutely beyond anything I would have ever thought. Like 10 years ago, any one of us could go back and talk to ourselves 10 years ago, and we would have thought, no, there's no way all that's going to happen. Quiet. Sorry, I got dogs too. The thing is our rights were not granted by the Constitution. They were codified by the Constitution, and our rights were actually declared to be God-given and inalienable, which means you cannot remove them. You can't give them away, and no one can take them. You can't sign enough pieces of paper, not to mention that Article 6 is against that. But anyway, I'll get into that. Our founding fathers put all this into place for us. Welcome back, and this would technically be the 5th episode of Truth Is, and I wanted to do it as a special edition. So again, with the truth is the truth. So that's where I conceived the name from, and you could just as easily say the truth is, So the point of the story is. I keep hearing people talking about our rights, and they keep saying, well, I believe in our First Amendment rights, and I believe in our Second Amendment rights, but actually the truth of the matter is, if you read the Constitution, and I'll go over that right here, if you look here at our First Amendment, it says the government, Congress shall not make any laws, okay? Now, look at the Second Amendment. It says the government shall not infringe on your right. Now, where was that right described? It wasn't described by the Constitution. It was described by the Declaration of Independence. Now, if you look and you read the Declaration of Independence, what does it say? That the people have the right and the duty to throw off such a government when it has overstepped its bounds. Now, how are we supposed to know when the government has overstepped those bounds? It's easy. They put the Constitution in its way. It's that simple. They gave the government the Constitution. When they defied it, they had become the despots we were supposed to remove from power. That's it. And he even put Article 6 in there saying, okay, you can't break this. It's a set on you. This is on you. And if you break it, then you're the despots that we're told to remove. We have the right as the people, and we have the numbers, and this is where a lot of people don't even understand. You look at who showed up on January 6th. How many people? I'm not talking about the people who went to the Capitol building. I'm talking about to the Trump rally. There was like 1 million people at least. Now you start thinking, I didn't go. I can't go. I'm freaking handicapped, and I got 2 dogs I'm trying to take care of. I'm disabled, you know. So you start thinking, you know, we have a lot more people, and again, I know a lot of you are with me on this, that you believe that the election was stolen, and I truly do. I don't think Joe Biden, really, honestly, I saw some real numbers, a real numbers guy talking about the numbers of votes that he thought Trump was going to get. Here we go. Helmut Norpoth model. You see, I'll show you. Looky here. This one predicted Trump was going to have 362, if we can stop the glare. Wish I could keep it down like that. If we could stop the glare. 362 electoral votes, and Joe would have had 176. That's just one. The other guy I was listening to had estimated that Trump was going to pull like 116 million votes. Not kidding. How many did that leave Joe? I mean, they say there's okay, this is the U.S. Census, and I'll put this up here too. Now, the U.S. Census says that 159 million people were registered to vote in 2020, and out of those 159 million, according to the same people, the census, we had a 68% participation rate in the 2020 election. I don't know about you and your math, but 68% of 159 million, it's about 114 million, okay? Which, you know, that makes no sense. If Joe got 81 and Trump got 74, and hey, their words, they said there was no cheating, right? They said there was no cheating in the 2020 election. Nobody cheated, right? But Trump got 74 and Joe got 81. Dude, can you do math? That's like 155 million votes. And now again, like I said, the census said that there was 159 million registered voters, but they didn't show up. 68% did. 68%. That's their numbers, not mine. How did Joe get 81 million? He didn't. I don't even think he got. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Out of that 114 million, I think Joe might have had 2 million. And that's my opinion. You know, it's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. I think Joe got 2 million votes. That's it. 2 million. And Trump got 112 million votes. Imagine if those numbers hadn't been fudged with, we would have known the truth. But see, they keep saying there was no evidence, liar. Because a judge doesn't let it into a courtroom and doesn't look at it, doesn't say, hey, it doesn't exist. It says, we're not going to look at it. That's like that kid who put his fingers in his ear. I ain't going to listen to you. That's exactly what it is. That's the left all the way across the board on the whole election thing, you know. But yet here I have. Let me here. I'll pop this tape in here.
That our voting machines are too vulnerable.
Where researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that ballot recording machines and other voting systems are susceptible to tampering.
Even hackers with limited prior knowledge, tools, and resources are able to breach voting machines in a matter of minutes.
In 2018, electronic voting machines in Georgia and Texas deleted votes for certain candidates or switched votes from one candidate to another.
biggest seller of voting machines, is doing something that violates Cybersecurity 101, directing that you install remote access software, which would make a machine like that, a magnet for fraudsters and hackers.
These voting machines can be hacked quite easily.
You could easily hack into them. It makes it seem like all these states are doing different things, but in fact, 3 companies are controlling them.
It is the individual voting machines that pose some of the greatest risks.
There are a lot of states that are dealing with antiquated machines, right, which are vulnerable to being hacked.
Workers were able to easily hack into an electronic voting machine.
3% of American voters use voting machines that researchers have found have serious security flaws.
Oh, that was different.
I mean, they said it themselves. They knew it was the truth. They knew that there was election fraud before that. Then all of a sudden, after Joe and Obama had this inclusive, extensive voter fraud organization, what did we hear out of their organization? Nothing. Nothing. We heard zero from their voter fraud, but yet they're the ones who cried about all the election fraud for all those years. And then when it was Trump, all of a sudden, it doesn't exist. It's like the invisible man, the abominable snowman, just like racism. Now see, this is why I wanted to come in here and do more than just explain our rights to you today, and our rights, and the people do need to stand up, because be honest with you, look, if y'all keep waiting, you're going to be too late. There's not going to be anything left for you to stand up for. And I know you don't want that for your kids. I know you don't want you see your kids grow up in a communist country, and that's what's going to happen if you don't stand up. And we outnumber them. The choice is right now, we outnumber them. Unless you sit here, keep sitting here and not doing nothing, then they're going to pick us off one at a time, see, until there's nobody left to fight them, see. And I'll show you this meme right here. Now, isn't that a perfect example of what happens when you don't say something? If we don't stand up, we outnumber them right now. If we sit and let them pick us off, we're not going to. We're not gonna. They got people coming in our country right now from other countries who want to kill us. Okay? Now, from my understanding, Hamas has set up training camps in Mexico and is training young Mexican men in terrorist tactics to come into our country, and we're letting all these people come in across the border. The same people, along with Hamas members, Palestinians and Syrians and what is it called? Somalian, just like Ilhan Omar. Now see, here's another problem, and we'll get into this in a minute. A lot of the people don't understand. I'm going to do other shows about this, and I don't want to ruin like every show I have planned to get into everything in one show, But the fact of the matter is, and then I'll be all over the place too, so I don't want to really do that. The fact of the matter is, Islam was established 1400 years ago. When you take all of the leaders of the world combined, they have less than 240 million people that they killed. That's in the name of communism. And you think communism is great? Okay, and I'll go. The point was to get back to what the Muslim empire started 1400 years ago. Some of the more conservative estimates on the number of people they have killed since they were founded have it around 240 million, which, as I showed you, that's why I showed you the dictators combined did not reach that number. But that's the low end. The high end, people say that Islam has killed 690 million people in the name of peace. Okay? Put that in your pipe and smoke it. I tell people, again, with communism, socialism, all of that is just the same thing. It's just a different name. They give it a different name. Socialism, fascism, it's all the same thing. Because what happens is the government is in complete control. Whether you're saying that people have to volunteer or whether you're forcing the people to volunteer, it's still the government in control. It's the same thing, dude. It's just a different name. It's a different name. Retag. That's all you're doing, is you're retagging it. And if you think socialism wasn't tried the right way, again, you need to go back and read the story of the Mayflower Compact. Again, the Mayflower came here and William Bradford set up the whole community where everybody got an equal share. Nobody owned anything. So everything that was being produced, everybody shared it all. And guess what happened? Certain people wouldn't work and other people were doing all the work, until the ones who were doing all the work said, you know what, I'm not going to work anymore because I'm tired of working, and those lazy bums sitting over there not doing any damn thing, and they're getting part of what I'm making. So then they sat down, and then guess what was happening? Nothing was getting produced, okay? William Bradford took the Mayflower Compact, in essence ripped it up. He didn't really rip it up, but I'm sure he probably kept it. But he nulled it. He said, you know what? Okay, now everybody gets a piece of land, and now you get to keep what you produce. Okay? They flourished. They did. They became so, and it was the first case of free market capitalism. And what happened? It flourished. People started coming here from England, Ireland, and all this crap they say about the Indians. I'm sorry, I'm a third Native American, okay? The Native Americans were killing each other, but you know, I'm also Hebrew and Egyptian, so you can sit and talk about, I can, you know, kick my own butt 3 times and still not, you know, wouldn't make everything right. It doesn't matter. It's in the past. You know what I'm saying? And everybody crying about privilege. Let's go back to privilege, okay? Socialism tried. It failed, okay? It failed, and it was done the right way. So the whole story is wrong. All you have to do is go look at the true story. Even Rush Limbaugh did a whole episode of the true story of Thanksgiving. Go to YouTube and watch it. Okay, I grew up, man, very poor. I was very poor. My parents divorced in 1973, and the strangest thing is my parents just moved in together after, this is 2023, 50 years later, man. Isn't that crazy? That's just crazy. And for me, it's like crazy, but it's like 50 years it took, you know, to things to go back right again. And I hope that what happened here happens everywhere. But I grew up poor, you know, and we were back and forth between my parents. So when people talk about privilege, I want to take my right foot and cram it right up your backside. And I'm telling you, I grew up, I was living next door at one point to the projects, and I was poorer than the kids who lived in the projects. I mean, because we had to literally decide whether we're going to pay our rent today or whether we were going to eat tonight, or whether we were going to have heat or we were going to freeze to death, you know. So we went through this, you know, until I actually didn't even get to finish high school. It's a long story. Then I went back and I got my GED in '85, but then I found out that wasn't enough, so I went back again. It's a long story with the high school diploma, but it's a long story. But suffice it to say that some very bad things were done to me, not by my family, by someone else. And one reason why I despise Hollywood today, but I'm not going to get into that in here. And I'm not, and matter of fact, it may be quite a few episodes before I talk about that for this channel, you know, because I want to keep these things separated, you know, because I don't want my opinion to bias what I'm talking about here, okay? But suffice to say, we were very poor. I've never known anything about privilege, and as far as the police go, I've met very good cops, some very bad ones. I've had cops sit and threaten me and my friends for no reason, you know. So you can't sit and pretend it's all just one side. And then when you talk about slavery and all that, horse shit. Okay, sorry to say it, but horse shit. Okay, my family, one side, I've got Irish. The Irish were enslaved. The Muslim pirates, the Barbary Coast, were capturing ships and enslaving white people and selling them in the Ottoman Empire. Long after slavery ended here in the United States, decades after it ended here in the States, there were still white people being sold into slavery. There still is today. Wake up, there's still slaves today. They're in other countries. You don't hear nobody talking about it, but they're going to make an issue out of the only country in the world who fought an entire war to end slavery. And let me tell you something. My father's side came here from France, to Canada. And from Canada, we came to the United States of America, and my family and my grandmother has a picture of them somewhere of our ancestors in their Union uniforms with their mustaches that were like big old, bicycle mustache handlebars, and pictures, real pictures. And they fought against slavery and died. There was a Vincent who died in Pennsylvania, some rock somewhere, Round Rock or something. Okay, I don't know if I'm related to that Vincent, but it's the fact of the matter that we fought and died. And then there's the fact that you ignore that 96%, almost 96%, or it's 95.4% of people in America never owned slaves. Only 4.6% did. 4.6. They always try to drum up that number by counting only the southern states that had slaves. There was only 11 states out that had the slaves, and the rest of the states, when you counted the whole population, it wasn't even, they try to say it was 20-something% down there. Those 11 states, it was 20-something%. The states all together, no. There was 95.4%, 95.4% of the American people never owned slaves. Then when slavery ended, you had millions and millions of immigrant families come to America who never knew anything about it, and they're white, and you're blaming them too. But my family fought against slavery. See, we didn't own any slaves and we fought against it, and you're blaming us, and you're blaming the people who came here after it ended. See, by saying, oh, we want reparations. What about how about the Irish? How about all the people who were enslaved and maybe still enslaved today? What's indentured is not the same as bullshit. Indentured is the same thing. A lot of people never bought their way out of being an indentured servant. It's the same thing. You're still a slave. As a matter of fact, I would contend with the Federal Reserve Bank that we're all slaves to them. So there's another whole story right there, and I'll do another episode about the Federal Reserve Bank. They're corrupt as hell. And they're not even owned by America. America doesn't run our treasury, so there's another one for you. Maybe you don't know this yet. But again, I grew up very poor. I got robbed by somebody who made a mint off of me, and they left me in the gutter, dude. And they're such a big shot, and everybody bows to him and worships him, and it makes me sick. And every time I turn on the TV, I see this, and I don't want to. You know what? It doesn't matter. It makes me want to puke. But you know what? You can live your life. I'll tell you something. And I had a piece of evidence that vanished, but it doesn't matter. I know how it vanished. You know that little thing they call the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, how they do this little information laundering thing? They were listening to my phones. You know why I know they did? Because nobody in the world knew I had that piece of evidence. Nobody except my mother. And my mother and me were the only ones who knew. And it was hidden way out in the boonies in a storage shed But anyway, that's another story. Someone found it, and the only way he could have found it is they were listening to my phones. Because I asked my brothers twice to go get it, because my brothers kind of knew, but they didn't really know, you know. But it was the piece of evidence was in a document sleeve thing, and I told them to go get it for me, and then it vanished. Until by 2015, it was gone. I went back down in 2015, it was gone. So somewhere between 2001 and so about a 14-year period there. But I'm pretty sure it was before that, probably around 2012 or 11, somewhere in that area. Anyway, back to the story. Our rights. Again, every single amendment of the Constitution, if you look, it says the government shall afford you a speedy trial. The government cannot raid you without having evidence. You know what I'm saying? They can't just and I'll read these. I should have had a stack of I didn't have myself organized before I started this video. But they don't have the right to violate the Constitution. That's the issue that we're talking about here. The Constitution, and Thomas Jefferson said it himself, the Constitution is the chains which bind the government. How do we know when they are not following the rules? Is when they break the Constitution. It is the test. It is the line in the sand that they broke. They broke the line in the sand. They are crossing the line in the sand, dude. Don't you understand? It is our right and our duty to say now, you don't have any more power left, because they operate by the people's consent. We need to watch. All of us need to stand up. We need to march to Washington, D.C. Every last person who has a damn brain in this country needs to get up, march your ass to Washington, D.C., drive, whatever, however you got to get there, and you stand up and say, we do not consent. Because it's gone too far. This man in the office didn't get there by winning an election. And I will swear that he is not the one in control. Who's behind him is Obama. And I'll tell you why, because he's a Muslim.
Talked about my Muslim faith, and you're absolutely right that has not come. My Christian faith.
Okay, you can take that whatever way you want. He's a Muslim. And then he's sitting over there, he's telling Joe what to do. He gave the Taliban $85 billion in equipment, and you can't tell me he didn't, because Joe knew better. 10 years ago, he was in a recording saying that he knew they couldn't. If I could find that recording, I'll include it in order.
End the war today, begin to withdraw all American troops. It will take a year to get the American troops out. Do you hear me now? That's the truth. It will take a year to get them physically out. Now, if you leave all the equipment behind, you might be able to do it in 7 months. And you leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday.
He knew better. He knew that they couldn't just pull out, that it would take time. They couldn't just yank everything out, or they would leave it to the enemy. What did he do? He did exactly that, left it to the enemy. And who's behind him? Again, arming his people. Obama arming his people. Exactly what he said he would do if the winds should change in an ugly direction. Now, what was this ugly direction? Again, let's talk about that for a minute. When he left office, who did he think was going to win? His candidate was Hillary Clinton. Things changed in an ugly direction at that point. He set up his shadow presidency.
Like you had a third term. And I used to say, you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony.
President Obama himself said he was going to stay in Washington until his daughter graduated. I think we ought to pitch in and let him go someplace else, because he's only there for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to run a shadow government that is going to totally upset the new agenda. It just doesn't make sense. And people sit back and they say, my gosh, why can't you guys get this done? I'm saying, we've got a new CEO, we've got some new heads in the different departments, but the same people are there, and they don't believe that the new owners or the new managers should be running the ship.
Imminently, more imminently even, to address the full Obama agenda of building back better. And I love to say, building back better.
So today, as you all saw just an hour or so ago, President Obama announced that, President Biden.
I mean, Biden. Come on, people. You know what's going on. You know what's going on. And these people run around, there ain't no evidence. Oh, y'all are corrupt, or y'all are dangerous. Or, look, man, I'm freaking handicapped. You know how many people that walked to that building, like that grandmother that was there? They put her in jail, a grandma. And they were letting people in. We have the tapes. We know what's going on here. And these people, don't let these people come on Truth Social or whatever platform and try. Oh, they're trying to convince you of a lie that they don't believe themselves. Or if they do, they're idiots, because we know damn well what happened. We know that was set up, because as soon as they let that objection go through, which was signed by Ted Cruz, by the way, that there would be investigations into elections. They knew it. There would be investigations into the elections in Arizona, because Paul Gosar had it signed by Ted Cruz. Now here's another question for you. January 6th, right? We have the right to go and protest our leaders. We have the right to. So what made it different? Why did they not bring in the National Guard? First off, Trump offered them 2 days and signed the paperwork. Now I'll show you the document right here, signed by Muriel Bowser, saying she didn't want any troops. Now, why would she do that? 2 days in advance, they already knew that somebody was going to sign an objection. Who told them? Did Paul Gosar tell them? Did Ted Cruz tell them? Somebody is playing both sides of the fence here, because there's no way they could have known that they would have this opportunity unless they knew there was going to be a signed objection. And they didn't want it to go through. They wanted to stop it. So this was a three-pronged attack, see what it was. One, it's going to stop the objection from causing investigations into the election. Two, make Donald Trump look bad and his supporters look bad. And three, give them a reason to instill fear in Trump's supporters and persecute them. 3 reasons, three-pronged attack. You think about it, that's how they are doing it. They attacked the American people on 3 fronts, and everybody knows what they did. They did the same thing in elections. How did they steal the election? They had dead people voting, they had illegals voting and double voting and ballots voting, and they had mules. And if that wasn't enough, then they had to add computer tabulating machines that were being tampered with, which they themselves, as you saw on the tape I showed you earlier, admitted that they could hack into them. They said it themselves. But then they denied it. But here, Mike Lindell's team found this. What does that tell you? They've crossed this line. They crossed the line, people. The line the founding fathers drew in the sand. They said, this is how you'll know when they defile the chains which bind them. The chains which bind them, they're not our rights, people. Those are their chains. They're not our rights. Our rights are God-given. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was our God-given right. And that's why you don't see our Amendment 2 saying Chucky has the right to own any gun he wants. It doesn't say that. It says the government shall not infringe. Shall not. The Congress, on the First Amendment, your free speech, me talking right here, the government shall not. So what they're doing to Trump right now, unconstitutional, no matter how many little liberal pieces of shit get on here and argue with me. I'm sorry. You do not have the right to silence someone. Period. Period. I don't care if it is. If it's threatening, then you take them to jail for threatening you. And that's one thing. But you can't silence their speech. If they do something that has a price, then they pay the price for it. But you can't silence them. I just like I can't force all the rich people, even the bastard who robbed me, to be fair. Can you force rich people to be fair and give you some of their money? Just to be honest, to clarify something real quick, by that statement, I wasn't insinuating that I don't think that a person should be able to get rich and do it honestly. If you have an honest business and you become rich, that's your right. That's your right. And that's the capitalist way. So by that statement, it was more, again, why I haven't really talked about my case. So I don't mean by that in any way that I think that rich people should share their wealth. That's a communist idea, and I don't believe in sharing the wealth like that. If someone wants to be generous, that's on them. If someone wants to steal from you after they lied to you, that's another story totally. You legislate morality. You cannot legislate morality, okay? Now, you can to a point when it's harmful to the masses. Like some of the things we've seen going on have been harmful to the masses, and we know this. And I'm not going to even mention, and all of you know what I'm talking about. And it's not just the kids thing, the LGBTQ things, all those things. It's not just that. It's you know what I'm talking about. All these things that they're legislating. They've been doing this forever, okay? So before I get off here, the last thing I'm going to say, they have been toxifying us for years. Not just mentally, through our TVs. My TV hasn't been on in years. It comes on when I watch an old movie. I'll pull up an old movie and watch it, or I might play a game, but it doesn't come on. It hasn't been on in right now over a month, because I've been working on my books. And just to go over you all, I don't have a hard copy of Book of Dracula. I don't have a hard copy of my second part 2 yet, but I'm going to tell you something. They're not what you think they are. They are fiction. Book of Dracula is fiction. But let me tell you something. Look at all the books you got from like Pelosi and all these liberal Congress people writing books. Hillary Clinton, how she lost the election, whatever. There is more truth in my fiction book than there is in all of their books put together. And that's the truth. You know, and I go through some of the things that I've told you today on this video about the Constitution. So you think this is just a book about Dracula? No, it's not. Anyway, it's a story about some people who do heroic things, and on the way they discover things, you know, and that's the thing. And some of them know certain things, and some of them know other things, and they all put it together, you see, and that's how they come to win in the end of the second book. But anyway, you gotta read them to understand. And the world is full of corruption right now, from the top to the bottom. Period. You know, we got to get back to a point where we can have a normal world. We're done, you know. So it's either you stand up now or we're finished. You know, and our right and our duty is to stand up to the government and say, look, no more. You can't go any further than this. No more. Take it easy.